It's an honor to be here, this festival. It's just one of the most incredibly put together, passionate, cinephilic events that I've ever been to in my life. So I'm incredibly pleased and incredibly grateful to Antonio Costa, to Paulo Branco, to everybody from the festival, all the organizers. There would be too many people to name because there's just been so many memorable people and incredible people that we've been meeting this week. Tonight we'll go to Porto and present the movie there. But this particular screening is very special because we're going to be showing the film in its original format of 35mm. So you're going to see today the only 35mm copy of this film that exists in the world right now. So in Porto it will be digital, but don't tell them. I want to just say a few words about somebody who I know he would have been thrilled to be here because he was the most passionate and cinephilic person on our set. He was the youngest person on our set. He was 26 years old when we made the movie. And he was the person who taught us the most, and he was the person who showed us the most about how to make films and talk about films, and that's Anton Yelchin, our actor. When I look at this film now, which is dedicated to Anton, I don't only, it's not just dedicated to Anton. This movie really belongs to Anton Yelchin. I was lucky to have the support of Rodrigo and Carter and Jim and so many other people in this process, but the one person who just his enthusiasm and commitment to this project was always unwavering was Anton Yelchin. And so I look at this movie now, I'm not the author of this movie really belongs to Anton. He gave me and everybody else the confidence to do this, so to Anton. Thank you very much.
Want to say something?
Well, I just thank you all for coming to see this film, and thank you, Gabe. Thank you for making this film. And I don't know, it's important to have interesting films that aren't made by formula, by interesting people, and so we're proud, Carter and I, to be here also to see Porto on film. Thank you very much.
And we'll be around after for discussion. So yeah. Thank you. With Lucie, by the way, the Lucie, she's coming. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
My last film was a documentary, so there were lots of things that were unfamiliar to me about the process of making a fiction film. And it was very different, you know. It was, you know, we had a script supervisor, a lighting team, we had wardrobe, makeup people, you know, all this stuff that you don't have necessarily in documentary. And so it was more about collaboration. As Lucie said, sometimes I didn't know how to articulate what I was saying, but that's because you're in front of 20, 30 people. And it's really a huge challenge to learn how to communicate with each department and say what you want the clothes to be like and the hair to be like. And, you know, that's stuff you don't really, it's not necessarily a part of documentary, but there are documentaries that are more, let's say, produced. But so you have to learn how to be a better communicator, and you have to also know when to strategically not communicate things, you know. And not sound like you don't know anything when you're doing that, right? So to be smart about the things you sort of leave open, and the kind of chaos that you invite sometimes into the shooting. But yeah, I don't know. Lucie, do you wanna?
It's a movie about human being also, and so sometimes you watch them and you feel like what happens to them is. Could happen to anyone, and sometimes you can see that they are really specific, and it's so human, and so maybe that's why you felt it like a documentary.
Yes, and for me, I will never forget Anton's voice in your film. I think I would always remember it. And it will always be there. and his presence. It's very somehow giving. He wants to give himself all to, in this case, you, the character, the screen, the movie, the process. It's very beautiful. And it was in that sense that I felt it, but well, he didn't know that he was going to, well, no one knows when he's going to die, but what I mean is that he gave himself all to this process. He says, he has a line in the film, I think, where he says something like, what's happening to us is bigger than us, we don't know. So that's very beautiful, and he portrayed it very well. That's in that sense that I was speaking, that it will remain as a sort of a documentary of his process, his acting process.
I wish you could remember also his laugh, because in this movie you cannot really have it, but it was one of the funniest guy I ever met, and his laugh is in my ears all the time, and very specific also, and so cool, so innocent.
We have the outtakes. When the DVD comes out, you'll see what a funny guy Anton could be on set. Yeah, he was like, could be completely in character, but then, you know, just cracking jokes and making us, you know, laugh all the time and pulling pranks on people, and you know, so. But yeah, he had this wonderful urgency in everything he did. He would go back to his hotel room and watch movies every night because he was a student of cinema, a student of art, and he always kept saying to me, oh, I haven't watched enough movies, man. You know, I gotta watch more movies, you know? So he was always, you know, just like, you'd be talking to him about movies and he'd be making little lists and stuff like that. And so, and, you know, and he was always, you know, he had the same consideration for everybody, you know, on set in his life, all this stuff. So he was a very serious person that way, but also, that was just his, in a way, innocence about life and about, you know, his, you know, artistic life, and, you know, who he liked to invite all these people into his life. And a lot of people in Hollywood, what they do is they exclude people from their lives and they push people away, and that attitude unfortunately becomes very prevalent in people, you know. And Anton, even with his fame, you know, from the Star Trek movies or, you know, whatever, he was still a wonderfully grounded human being who was just very serious about the art. You know, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to meet. I mean, you know, came to him with one film under my arm. There was very little seen, and this is, you know, I couldn't believe that this guy who had made 30 films and was Anton Yelchin would take me seriously. You know, so yeah, that's. But he was willing to go on the adventure. You know, he was willing to risk it, and you know, and he knew there was something there in this character that he could really, you know, flex his muscles, and, you know, yeah, he was, we could talk about him all night, but maybe there's some other questions from the audience. No?
Gabe, you said that this was your first feature.
Mm-hmm.
Are you, so did the experience, I guess it was such a collaborative experience. Are you looking forward to a second one, to a second project?
Yeah, very much so. I mean,
because this film is it has a lot of possibility in it. So are you looking for?
It's interesting because I thought, you know, I wanted to work very fast because my first film, I made it in 6 months. From the conception of it to the premiere in Venice was 6 months, which is unheard of. And so I thought, oh, they're all going to be like this. And boy, was I wrong, you know. And so this one took about 2 years and change. And I understand. I understand why some things have to move slowly and why some things can move fast. But when you take the time and the care, I mean, I think going through this process made me a more patient person. And also after you've made a couple and you're more calm, you know. And I think you're, you know. Now you just want to work and make another film that's very memorable and not just kind of, you know, I mean, Jim Jarmusch, who's in the audience, who we're very lucky to have collaborated on the movie, he's a person I think I heard him say to his friends in an interview or something, Aki Kaurismäki and Claire Denis, who were making a lot of movies, and Jim was always saying, slow down, you know, like take your time, and you know, you guys should. And I think, yeah, that really resonates with me now, because I understand how much detail goes into the process, and how that's, you know, when we were in that Cafe Ceuta, and we laid that, we were on the dolly, and we were coordinating the dolly movements on that track, and we were lighting it. The lighting in that cafe is horrible, by the way. We made it look good, you know, and and it has 2 mirrors, so that was hard too. Yeah, like on both sides. But yeah, we even told them afterwards. We said, if you like, you can keep our lighting, and they said, no thanks. And we're like, you're crazy. Yeah, exactly. So. But you know, in that, I remember in that moment, you know, that scene that took us about 12 hours to set it up, and we filmed all night, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and the light was starting to come up, we were going to lose the shot, and I just remember thinking, we're never going to do this thing ever again, and no one's ever going to do this thing ever again, so we might as well take 12 hours and, you know, put as much care and detail to get it exactly right, because no one's going to be in this place doing this exact thing ever again, and that really is very, you know, is very meaningful. And so, you know, I think, you just have to give yourself the luxury of getting it right.
Yes, hello. Yeah. Congratulations, beautiful film. I would like to ask you about Chantal Akerman. So, I don't know, how was this encounter with her?
It came in during the post-production process, where I was experimenting a lot in the editing, and I like Chantal's voice very much. She has a very kind of masculine voice, but very fragile at the same time. And I asked her, I didn't know her very well, but I asked her if she would be willing to record a reading of Fernando Pessoa poem for me, and she said, I think Henry Bean, who is a mutual friend, said, yeah, you should really do Gabe's movie. I hear it's great. And Chantal said, okay, Gabe, I hear your film is very beautiful, and I will do it, you know. And she came to the recording studio, and we spent an entire afternoon and part of an evening recording these poems. And then her voice became very, very fragile, and she started sweating, and she was recovering from a recent illness, and we had to kind of stop. And so anyway, I started putting her voice into the editing, into the film, and there was already kind of a problem in the film of points of view. I wanted it to be very firmly grounded in Maddie and Jake's points of views, and adding a sort of abstract narration over it wasn't helping the points of view in the film, even though poetically and everything it fit the tone of the film, it fit the texture of the movie, but it wasn't helping the storytelling. So at the last minute, like one week before we locked the final sound mix, I decided to take out her narration from the movie. And an art curator in Paris convinced me that I had to do an audio installation using that material. And so I've done that. We've done an editing of it, and now it will exist. It doesn't exist in the movie anymore. It exists outside of the movie as an audio installation. And so I mean, I'm very happy. I think, you know, you're creating, when you're making movies, you're creating archives. You're taking notes. You're collecting things. And you're shooting lots of things that you don't use, recording things that you don't use. And I think that's part of the constellation of the movie. Now those things can exist around the movie, and that's kind of beautiful too. So somebody might listen to that installation with Chantal's voice, and they might see my movie, and they might hear her voice the way I hear her voice when I watch the film. Yeah, what a wonderful filmmaker, and yeah, I mean, we've lost too many good ones recently. You know, it's not fair. So, somebody said to me once, when you're at a film festival, approach people whose work you love and talk to them about their work. And this is a festival like that. It's a festival where people are accessible, and you can just walk up to them and tell them how much you love their movies, and you know, we have to do that anyway. It's just a general reminder to anybody in the audience. I love when people remind me to do that, because you never know, the next minute somebody's gone, you know, and or you're just never going to get that opportunity again. You have to, And you don't know, like my friend Mariano, who's here in the audience, where is he? Oh, he left, he had to go to the airport. He was saying that he met you, Daniel, like 10 years ago, and he was just a film student then, and he had no idea that you guys were going to work together 10 years later, and that's beautiful. I met Sarah Driver, who's in the audience today, 12 years ago at a festival in Buenos Aires with my friend Jonathan Rosenbaum, who's also in the audience, and Sarah introduced me to Jim, and here we are working together 12 years later, and that just happens at film festivals. Film festivals are magical places, so yeah.
Hi, I think the different format of film was really helpful to get into the movie and into the story and into the obsession too. I just wanted to ask you if you had it previously defined when you were shooting in Super 8, for instance, or any different format, or if you experimented and shot a lot of Super 8, if you felt like you could, or how planned it was, or.
Well, Super 8 is the cheapest format to shoot in out of the three, so we could shoot a lot of it. So just to give you an idea, the shooting ratio for 35mm was 10:1. So my limit per take was about 10 if I wanted to go that far. On 16, we went about a little bit higher, 14:1, 50. We got a little bit scared. 20:1. Okay, yeah. We went 20:1 on 16 just because it's a little bit cheaper. So we thought we could roll more. And then Super 8, I went 50:1. So I went really overboard on Super 8, and but also just because it's so much fun to shoot Super 8. So we had 3 cameras, and sometimes I would give a camera to a crew member, and they would go off and shoot something, or I would give Lucie a camera or Anton a camera, and they go off and shoot something and come back. Or Anton and I would, Anton would be out of the wardrobe, and I would just grab him before like the van was going to come and take us to the set, and I say, let's just walk around the block and shoot some stuff on Super 8. And you see some of that stuff at the end, So that's the freedom you have with Super 8. You don't need a lighting crew with you. You don't need to, you just kind of go and run and gun and do it, I mean, honestly, that was just, we were shooting on film, and so that was the mood of the set. We wanted, everybody to be aware of the sort of, the old school filmmaking, the textures of filmmaking, and so it was just like, just to give people the camera and just to let them go was very important. Sometimes we were having trouble with a shot, and I would just say, okay, just let's rest, guys. Gaffer crew, the wardrobe, everybody would go off into the break room and have a coffee, and I would just be on set with Anton and with Lucie and Wyatt and maybe a couple other people, and we'd just start fucking around on Super 8, and then everybody was comfortable again, right? I remember in Paris when we were shooting, there was it was like really late in the night, and we were starting to get really tired, but then you introduce Super 8, and you just start shooting a bit of Super 8, and suddenly everybody's kind of happy again, it's a trick, because, yeah, it's like, it's such a small canvas that people aren't so worried about what they're gonna look like, or, what the hair is gonna look like, or what the lighting's gonna look like, because it's supposed to look bad, it's supposed to look rough, and kind of, so Super 8 kind of freed us in the moments when we needed to be freed. Yeah.
What about the 35 and the 16? You played? While you?
Oh yeah. I didn't really answer about Super 8 and 16, or 16 and 35. Yeah, I mean it was just part of. Yeah, when suddenly you have the 35 camera on set, and it's a huge camera. It's an RE studio, and it weighs a lot. And sometimes I would just lift it myself just to feel that weight, and how different that is from Super 8, right? And then you're really designing shots, and it's really different. So the camera movements are going to be different. And the storytelling is going to be different. You can't tell the story in Super 8 the same way you're going to tell it in 35. Yeah.
It's not even the same way to act. On the 8mm, that you have less images, so you play it bigger. And 16 less big, and 35 less big, and at the same time it's like a documentary. You go into the intimacy. So yes, it was planned.
Yeah. And oftentimes we had 3 cameras running at the same time. No, I'm just kidding. That would have been a nightmare.
All right. So since you talk so much about the script and Rodrigo never reading it, and I was wondering how much of it was changed or improvised during the shoot from your first for the shooting script, and because Lucie said that you went into the sets and improvise or maybe rehearse, and so I was just wondering, you know, how far it.
Well, no, I think what Lucie meant, correct me if I'm wrong, but is when you're faced on the day with the light that you have and the location that you have and all this stuff, you just have to change things, right? You have to change the blocks. So no matter how much preparation you do, if you're not working on a sound stage, there are elements that are going to be introduced to the process that are unfamiliar to you. So you're going to have to deal with those unfamiliar elements when you're there. Yeah, maybe I'm not remembering.
No, but you know, it's a bit like theater. When you have a lot of rehearsal, at first you are playing the evidence, and then the time passes, and you understand better what is the real meaning that you want to show, and the emotion that you want to experience, and so it was a bit like theater, because it was not the we had our journey also, and so yes we had to adapt to things during the set, but also the truth came more easily, and yes.
But there was a script, of course. And
how do you know?
No, I know. I stopped. No, but the thing is, and of course, they had time to do rehearsals, so they all adapted the script itself, but everybody read the script. I was the only one allowed not to. But I mean, everybody was working on a steady basis, not improvising or, you know, different style than what we discussed yesterday. Very different style. So it was precise, even with the shooting formats. It was very precise on the production schedule, what was going to be shot on which camera and everything. So there's always a space to improvise, like Gabe was saying. Super 8 is easy, you just grab the camera and go on. But everybody knew exactly which camera had to be loaded when, what's going to happen, everybody. So it was, but the thing is, it's a smaller crew, it's easy going, so there's space to go somewhere else whenever they want. So that's good.
Sorry. And also, at the beginning, when you write a script, you generally want to put so many things in it. You want to talk about so many things, and it's hard to know what is really important or not. And so during the rehearsal, we realized that some lines were not really useful, and so we kept the essential. And then during the editing, also Gabe removed a lot of things, and just to keep the essence, I think.
Well, I think another filmmaking mentor of mine, Richard Linklater, said you just have to peel away a movie like an onion. Just peel away the layers until you get to the core of it. Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Gabe, Rodrigo, Lucie, and also Jim Jarmusch and Carter Logan for this beautiful film.
And Sarah Driver too.
And Sarah Driver. So sorry. Of
No,
course.
no. I want to personally thank Sarah Driver because she's a great filmmaker, but you know, and an instigator, and so and oh yeah, so yeah.
Thank you.
So let's go have a beer.